We don't really know how much flour you'll need. You have to feel the flour. You'll know when it's enough. That's the advice you get when making pizzelle, the beautiful, fragrant, anise-filled Italian cookies that have been in my family for generations. My nonna, my grandmother, Assunta Di Battista, or Miss Sue as most people know her, learned the recipe for pizzelle from the women in her life, and when she arrived in the United States in 1947, she brought the tradition here. Making them together with her feels like a collective expression of our heritage right here in the kitchen. Add the eggs, the sugar, pour the melted Crisco in slowly, the anise flavoring, and finally, ready the flour. My nonna is not a traditional teacher. She teaches by doing. I learned early on that if I wanted to learn how to do anything in the kitchen, I needed to be ready to show up and prove myself useful. I learned to observe and jump in when it was my turn. No time for questions. But what about the flour? A skill I still had to learn. How do you know when it's enough? You just know, she would say. Ma come? But how? My grandmother didn't know what was awaiting her as a young girl here in Baltimore. Arriving by boat with her mother, grandmother, and sister, she had to learn to navigate life in a new, noisy city, una nuova città, full of cars, a new language, and a new pace altogether. As we sit and chit-chat in La Cucina, thinking about the places that my own family has been, I can't help but wonder if I'm living up to Nonna's American dream. Those common feelings we all have of struggling to build up our lives to what we want them to be begin to creep in. Has it even been good enough? And then we measure the flour. A few cups to start. Uno, due, tre. No fancy mixer to combine the ingredients. You just have to get in there and use your hands. The dough starts to form as you add handfuls of flour to the wet ingredients. It feels sticky on my hands. 6 cups, 7 cups. The dough starts to take shape. Ma non ne basta. No, that's not enough. Keep going. I told myself to keep going when I started college, struggling to keep up with late-night assignments, struggling to see the big picture, not knowing where it would all take me. Keep going, I tell myself today as I work to balance a full-time job, graduate school, marriage, all while still feeling like that kid in college, figuring out which direction I want my life to go. And just like that, the dough takes shape. No longer sticky, you're able to form little dough balls in your hands, prepping them for the iron. Miss Sue's pizzelle iron, whose age and origin story is somewhat unknown, is still the best for the job. Long have we been on the hunt for a more modern iron, but anytime we try to use a new one, the cookies don't quite turn out the same. So it's always back to Nonna's iron. As it heats up, we line a baking sheet full of dough balls ready to be squished into the beautiful cookie shape. 2 balls of dough in at a time, we make them due per due, 2 by 2. Squeeze the iron shut and say a Hail Mary so you know how long to cook. Upon opening the iron to see the newly pressed pizzelle cookies, still hot, not quite ready to be enjoyed, we transfer them to a tablecloth to be cooled, stacked away in containers, and whisked away for the next occasion. Generations removed from the olive tree farm my nonna grew up on in Italy, these recipes still make me feel connected to a past that I get to practice right here in the kitchen. They make me think of all those steps she had to take to make her life and our lives what they are today. There are those that might say I'm not a real Italian, that making cookies together is not enough, that I'm not fluent enough in the language, not practiced enough in the old ways of doing things, not living up to the dreams of my ancestors. But my nonna and my family show me every day that being ourselves is enough. And what is my dream today? Il mio sogno? To be a student, a partner, a teacher, a daughter, a granddaughter, a friend. Learning from our collective past and those who have come before us helps us connect to our present, helps us feel a sense of purpose and belonging, and living our lives surrounded by those that support us is enough. And eventually, like the dough, you'll be ready when you feel it. You know what you're doing when you trust yourself. Things come together when they're meant to. Fidate del processo. Just trust the process.